right, sweet. So we got, I believe, two or
I
three.
got it.
You got
Yep,
it?
we got three. All right. So our first question comes from consistent question asker, Freddie Robles. You can find him
Oh,
on Twitter at FredJRXIII. Freddie, thank you for the question, as
thanks,
always.
Freddie.
Thanks for being a consistent listener to the show, consistent friend of the show as well. So, Freddie asks us this week, what's a genre or subgenre you want more people to give love to? And Phoenix, I feel like this is a question that is right up your alley. So, why don't you start?
Ooh, there are so many. But you know me. I love movie musicals, man. Like movie musicals are my ish, and I don't feel like they get enough credit. I mean, there are some great ones. There are some awful ones too. But I think like I said, I'm a big. I think I said before, Sister Act is one of my favorite movies. I would also advocate for a movie called Sing Street. If you have not seen Sing Street, it is amazing. Um, and I'm gonna throw Mamma Mia in there. So like for me, movie musicals is always my ish. So that's where I would go. Nathan, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to say, um, I don't really know how to phrase this, but movies based off of books, I guess is something I'm going to say.
Okay.
A lot of people, and like I said, we just talked about adaptations, and I think a lot of times, it chapter two, um, book adaptations don't work on the screen, but for the ones that do, I think need more love. Of course, what's the most used phrase on movies that were based off of books?
It's not as good as the book.
Exactly, exactly. And see, while that may be true in a lot of cases, I think that movies that were based off of books often get way more criticized than they do love because everyone compares them to the books. And while that should be, yeah, they should be compared, they shouldn't be over scrutinized. I'm scared for Dune when it comes out because all these, bookworms that read the book are going to criticize every little detail.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of The Great Gatsby. That's a movie that the bar graph looks like a roller coaster on Letterbox. People give it 5 stars, they give it half stars, they give it 3 stars. I don't know, but I think that just book movies need to stop getting so much hate, unless they're absolutely atrocious, like It Chapter Two. Um, People need to recognize how many great book adaptations there are. Especially, Fight Club is one that I'm reading right now. After absolutely loving the movie Fight Club, I'm reading the book right now. I am not too far into it, but so far I'm not really enjoying the beginning of the book. So that could change. Check back in a few weeks, but that's a long answer for you, Freddie.
Thanks, Freddie, man. We appreciate it.
All right, so very great question asker right now is from my mother, actually. So, Mom, thank you for the questions.
That's
I love
awesome.
it. Thank you for being engaged and involving with our questions on Twitter. So she's actually got two. We'll dive into the first one. What is the first movie you remember seeing in theaters?
So I saw that question last night, and it really baffled me because I was like, it's funny because I don't remember going to the theater as a kid. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? When I remember when I was a kid. Oh God, I'm gonna date myself. When I was a kid, there was this thing called the $1.50 theater, and yeah, and they would always show movies that had left the theaters like months or even years ago, but they would show them for only $1.50. So we would all go and see stuff, that had been out of theaters for almost a year, and those were the first movies that I went and saw. But I don't remember any of them. So like the only movie that I can think of that I remember by the time I was able, to really get into it, and I'm not gonna give that answer because I gave that for another question that we asked. Uh, but the one thing that I can remember that I know I saw in theaters and that I loved, even though it was terrible and it was cheesy, and I feel like I would not enjoy it today, and that is the original Mario Brothers movie. Yeah, the Super Mario Brothers movie. I saw that in theaters, I believe at the $1.50 show. It was fantastic when I was like 7. And yeah, I remember that. That's probably the first one that I can remember actually seeing in theaters.
All right. Well, we're gonna give a handful. We're both gonna give pretty awful movies as our answer here. Um, I don't. I just have a bad memory when it comes to my childhood. I don't remember I remember specific things like big things, but as
Mhm.
far as like things like this, I just don't really remember. I do remember my grandparents taking me and my brother to see an animated movie in 2009. So I would have been 10. Um, and it was called Monsters versus Aliens. And it has Reese Witherspoon, Paul Rudd, Rainn Wilson, like, recognizable names, but it's like this awful scored movie about this like blue blob.
Right.
And I remember my grandparents taking my brother and I to go see it. And I remember that vividly. Like, obviously, I know what the first movie is that I saw in theaters as like a 3-year-old, but I don't really remember that. That's just something I've been told and seen
Right.
pictures of more so than I remember. So, Monsters vs. Aliens, which was 2009, that's my answer to that. The other question is, at what age did your passion for movies begin? I'm gonna start off with that. I've always enjoyed watching movies, but it's never really been my hobby. Sports has always been my main primary hobby, interest, things like that. It was really a couple of years ago that movies became huge. I'm at college right now, and we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. So there's a theater around that is very cheap. It's not like $12 for tickets; it's $5. So, when there's nothing to do, going to the movies, paying for a very cheap ticket is very easy for us. So, going to see a bunch of movies there, I would really say Infinity War is when I got really excited about the MCU, but I'd say A Star is Born, which came out, which I watched probably like October of, that'd be 2018, October 2018, was when I really like, wow, yeah, movies is something I need to get into. Movies is something that I'm interested in. So whether it be the MCU and Infinity War came out or A Star is Born just 6 months later, that put me at like 19 years old. So very recently. What about you?
Um, I would say fairly recently as well. I think I've always been a big movie buff. But as far as knowing like this could be turned into anything, I felt like that only happened fairly recently, and I remember exactly when it happened. It was the first time I signed up for AMC Stubbs A List program, and with the AMC A List program, you can see up to 3 movies a week. And like one week, I kept getting out of work early, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the movies. And I in one week I saw 7 movies in the theater, and it was the first time in my life where I was like, oh my god, I've actually gotten a chance to go in and see a movie right when it comes out, and I get to appreciate it and review it because I just gotten on Letterbox and all of that, and I was like, I think I like this. I think I think I want to do this, and so I think that was like 2018. So like right around the same time as you. So yeah, I would say that's when that happened.
Wonderful. Freddie, my mom. Thank you for the questions.
Thanks,
Really
guys.
appreciate it. For those of you that don't know, on our Twitter, over on Twitter at Film Code Pod, we ask every week for questions, more organic responses. We usually don't know what the questions are until the show. So just kind of anything film related, go ahead and ask us. Doesn't have to be what we're talking about, and we'll answer your questions. Just kind of get to know us a little bit better as hosts and our tastes and things like that. That's on Twitter at Film Code Pod. We'll shout you out in the show just like we just did for our question askers there. So let's move right along.